Obafemi George, the Chief Responsibility Officer, Barachel Realty Limited. Obafemi George is a real estate consultant and certified realtor with almost 2 decades of marketing experience. He is a political scientist with an MSc from the University of Lagos and the first degree in political science from the Lagos State University. He is currently the Chief Responsibility Officer at Barachel Realty Limited, the #1 stop in the region for buying and selling luxury real estate. They have been serving the area for almost 20 years and they do it with pride. Obafemi has carved a niche for himself in the upscale Ikoyi property market, catering for high net worth individuals and institutional investors. With a 10-digit annual sales turnover, he is a market maker in the Victoria Island property market and beyond. Obafemi sits on the board of some private and public companies, and he is happily married with 3 lovely children. As he takes the stage to teach us the art of engaging high net worth individuals, please celebrate the highly esteemed Obafemi George.
Please, can we celebrate the highly esteemed Obafemi George, CRO Barachel Realty Limited? Please, can we keep clapping till he gets here?
So my session is going to be practical. I'm going to be sharing with you real-life experiences. I try not to have an academic approach because selling is practical. And whatever you do, it's nice for you to engage HNIs. Why HNIs? Because you see, they control the economy, they control the political space. That's the 1% of the 1% that decides what happens in our economy. Now, the calculation is simple. If your target for this year is to, as a realtor, to net maybe 100 million in terms of fees. Now, you can either sell a 5 million naira plot in Mowe with 500,000 as fees. So which means you have to sell how many plots to earn 100 million? Help me with your mathematics. How many? Maybe 200. Okay? Now guess what? If you target an HNI, you can as well sell just one property and earn 100 million. Which one makes sense? The choice is yours. Now, for the past almost 20 years, I've had the rare privilege of selling to HNIs. Now, how did I start? When I started as a realtor, I was selling everything everywhere. In the morning, I'm in Surulere. 2 o'clock, I'm in Ikeja. 4 p.m., I'm in Ikoyi. 6 p.m., I'm on my way to Awoyaya. And I wasn't making a headway. So one day, a mentor of mine sat me down and said, and he made just one single statement. He said, Obafemi, if you're going to thrive in this industry, you have to be known with a particular market. You have to position yourself in such a way that if I think VI, the first name that comes to my mind is Obafemi George. So I stepped back, then I asked myself, which market do I want to become so prolific in? And I said Ikoyi. Now, the first 2-3 years, it wasn't fun because, I was a rookie, a new entrant into the market. Nobody knew me. I'd not built credibility. It was tough. Thank you. But, I can remember my first deal. I think I had 90,000 naira, and it was quite discouraging. But I kept at it. And by the second year, I began to break into that mold, gradually. And my first major deal in Ikoyi was a 90 million naira deal, Osborne Phase 1. And from there, I began to grow. So for me, my advice, my counsel would be, whatever you do, target the HNIs. Okay, I have just 15 minutes, so I'm just going to skip through. Excuse me? Okay, so who is an HNI? Like I said earlier on, it depends on, the school of thought you belong to. In certain climes, they'll say an HNI is someone who has a net worth of over $1 million. In certain climes, $5 million. But in Nigeria, let's use 5 billion naira. Okay? Okay, just help me. This seems not to be working. Next slide. So now we established who an HNI is. Now let's keep this. But basically, hold on. When you learn at these 3 different levels. When you also do business, you do business at these 3 different levels. So when you're engaging an HNI, you can start with your marketing, and all of that has to do with information. At that point, you're trying to, appeal to the senses of who you are trying to sell to. Now, by the time you move to the heart, there's an emotional connect. How do you do that selling to HNI? Okay, that's when you attend the daughter's wedding ceremony. You attend the birthday ceremony. You look at what the HNI is like. One small gift you drop. You're trying to connect with the HNI emotionally. Now, the third level is the spiritual connection. I'm going to tell you why this is important when you're dealing with HNIs. Just hold your peace, because I can see some expressions people say they're spiritual. Yes. Next slide, please. Okay, I've also said HNIs controls, what goes on in the economy. Who an HNI is, I've also talked about that. Next slide. Now, this is important. Because you can't sell to an HNI if you don't know how an HNI thinks. You can't connect, you can't convince if you don't know how they reason. First thing you must realize that an HNI has a big ego. Whoever has become a billionaire over the past 10, 20, 30 years, he's paid his dues. So you can't relate with him, with your senior manager you're trying to sell a plot to in Ekpe. Your approach has to be different. And if you look at organizations around you, there's a certain way they deal with an HNI. For instance, if you're flying economy, everybody, they just throw your bag. But if it's business class or first class, right from the check-in counter, they treat you differently. Your lounge is different because they know that you have an ego. There are so many banks today that have private banking. So if you're just an ordinary customer, you go to the counter, you are chasing your customer, your account officer on the phone. But as an HNI, they know that, you want to be treated differently. So you are invited into private banking. If you go to hotels, okay, your regular executive suite can be on the 3rd, 4th floor. But if you're lodging on the pen zone, you're on the pen floor. Okay, so an HNI has a big ego. You've got to be mindful of that. All right, they prefer preferential treatment. Thirdly, most HNIs are capitalists. Anybody who has accumulated 5, 10, 15, 100 billion, they are capitalists. Ruthless bottom line people. They always keep their eyes on the figures. No sentimental attachment to transaction. They don't care whether you are the junior brother, you are cousin. If it's naira and kobo, they are ruthless. Okay? So if you're engaging them, you want to sell to them, keep your eyes on the ball. Sign every document you can sign. Although that still doesn't mean they cannot cheat you. I've dealt with HNIs. I'll give you an example. About 15 years ago, the very first joint venture I structured in Banana Island. Big time developer. We signed an agreement that at the end of the day, he will give me 1 unit and he will pay me 30 million. This was 2008. Took the developer to Ilorin, met to the family, did all the work. Now when we were done, where's my unit? He said, no, George, I can't give you 1 unit. So I said, are you kidding me? We signed a document. He said, they go to court. Yes. He said, go to court. And you and I, going to court in Nigeria is a waste of time. Your son will marry and you become a grandfather, you'll still be in court. So that was the end of the story. So when you're dealing with an HNI, be mindful of that. Okay? They value excellence. HNIs value excellence. Look the part. Look the part. I'd like to share this experience. 2007, I bumped into one of those well-known HNIs at the airport. So I took her number. She gave me a number. Then I kept in touch. For over a year, once in a while, I would call and say, this is Obafemi George. I'm the realtor you met at the airport. This is what I do. And that relationship went on for like a year. One day out of the blues, I got a phone call. And she said, I'm looking for a waterfront property in Ikoyi. I said, no problem. So she said, okay, I'll be in Lagos so date. Meet me at home. Now, that particular time, I didn't have a car. So I was going to show up at her place. I mean, very wealthy woman. I mean, all manners of cars in her. I was just going to show up, as a rookie realtor. But wisdom told me that, listen, if you're trying to sell a billion naira property, you must look the part. So then she was living on body loan. So on my way to her place, I went to Falomo. So I went to a car hire service. So I had a Mercedes-Benz 190. I can't forget. White Mercedes-Benz 190. So I went to her place. So when she said, George, you are here. Okay, let's go. Let's go in your car. She left her cars, she left her escort, left her mopo, and she entered my car. Now, just imagine if I just gone, she would appreciate I'm just struggling. I probably would have lost the deal. Because she won't take me serious. She will think that, okay, one of those smart 419 guys who will package themselves. And I've kept that relationship till today. Almost 20 years. Always look the part. Now, I'm not saying go and break the bank. I'm not saying try to be what you're not. But, look good. For your level. Look good for your level. You're dealing with HNIs. Perception is reality. You're not trying to fake it till you make it, but it's the rule of the game. Next slide. And of course, be professional. Okay? As a guy, as a lady, most HNIs, they prey on young professionals coming up. Okay? So you need to be professional. If you're a lady, don't go to an HNI, showing cleavage, your skirt is slit to this level. He knows you're not trying to sell, but you're trying to sell something else. And even if you close that deal, guess what? Someone is going to show up with a bigger cleavage and you lose that client. Permit my language. So be professional. And same thing with the guy. Because, when we talk about sexual predators, they think it's just the women alone. Even guys too. I've had all sorts of experiences. This is not the forum to start sharing that. I have very limited time. Okay, so be professional. Let them know what you stand for. You will lose some deals. You will lose some deals when you're trying to be professional. But guess what? It will pay you down the line. Next slide. Now, when you're engaging HNI, think long term. Don't think of, let me just close this deal now. Think long term. My biggest client today is one of the richest Nigerians in this country. He's a foreigner. He's not a Nigerian. It took me 4 years to do my first deal with him. 4 solid years. Now, today, he calls me his son. When I enter his office, he stands up to greet me. When I'm leaving, the man sees me to the elevator. And if I open this curtain, I can begin to point to all the property he has built. VI, Ikoyi, everywhere. All over the place. He's a billionaire in dollars. But it took me 4 years. I kept marketing him. I would go to his office. Sir, there's a project. If you do this, the man would just look at me and say, okay, thank you for coming. But I knew that at that time he was controlling the market. And I knew that if I break it to this guy, you know what? That's it. And eventually I did. And when I did, it got to a point he will not do anything without calling me. It's if I can't deliver, then we'll go and look for someone else. So think long term. My slide, please. Invest in relationship. Invest in relationship. All right? When you're marketing to HNIs, So try not to oversell yourself. When you do, you actually undersell it. Because it's a put-off. Just drop some nuggets and just, keep the conversation going. Under promise, over deliver. Go to places where you can meet and connect with HNIs. Okay? I'll give you an example. About 10 years ago, there was this beautiful project in Banana Island, and I was like, how long? All right, so invest in things like that. When you fly business class or first, you're not wasting money. It's an investment in your business. Okay, join some clubs, the clubs and what have you. Go to places where you can meet them at the same level. All right, join the golf club. The guy you can't see in the office, you meet him at the golf course. You play golf for 2 hours. The day you couldn't close in the office, you close it at the golf course. Next slide. Where do you meet them? The airport lounge, social clubs, I've talked about that. Children's school. Children's school, I always like to share this experience. My first 2 kids went to Corona School in Ikoyi. And I have a friend who was living in Bagada. And there's a Corona School in Bagada. But he brought his kids to Corona Ikoyi. And one day I challenged him. I said, Shege, why would you leave Bagada and be coming to Ikoyi to drop your kids in the morning, come back? He said, George, you don't understand. I'm here for networking, The parents in Bagada are not the parents in Ikoyi. Yeah. I have a friend who met, the MD of, was this Sony Electronics? Yeah, Sony Electronics. Whose kid and his kid were in the same school in London. And the door that opened for his business is monumental. Monumental. So be deliberate about things like that. Okay? The slide, please. Foreign trips, seminars. Now, religious organizations, I need to say this. We're very fortunate in Nigeria that we're very religious people, either as Muslims or as Christians. And then let me tell you how that helps your business with HNIs. The bank chairman you can't see in the office. You might be in the same church, and you're in the same ushering department. So guess what? On a Sunday morning, you have to pray together, hold hands together. The same federal minister you can't see in his office. Guess what? You meet at the mosque on a Friday, you pray together. Networking. So be very deliberate. So when next you go to church or when next you go to mosque, be mindful where you sit and who you sit with. It will help your business. Next slide. Now, the spiritual. This is very important. Please listen to me. I have realized that in our environment, Africans, Nigerians are very spiritual. Virtually all HNIs that I've met, that I've interacted with, they are either committed Christians, committed Muslims, or highly occultic. I repeat, they are either committed Christians, committed Muslims, or highly occultic. Because let me tell you this, there's a certain level of wealth you cannot attain to without spiritual backing. So if you're gonna sell to them, you need to come from either of those 3 levels. You are either a committed Christian, a committed Muslim, or you're also highly occultic. And I've been very factual. My time is almost up. I could spend 1 hour on this. Most of the people you look up to in the society, the level of success they've attained, they know how they got there. So when you come to them, you want to do business with them. And I'm telling you from experience, and some details I cannot share. They size you up. They size you up. Some will tell you, I can't deal with that guy. He carries light. I'm telling you verbatim what I've experienced. Some are angry and they'll say, what do you mean? I've sold my soul. How can you just be earning money like that without compromising? No, don't pay him. Don't pay him his fees. What is it? Yeah. I structured a JV for a particular client. He's late now. Converted his building somewhere in VI, built an office complex, got a Lebanese developer and all of that. And in exchange for that, the man didn't know the back end story. I was the one that was privy to all the details. And he was expecting 2 million pounds. I structured 5 million pounds. The developer gave him 5 waterfront flats in Banana Island. My fees was meant to be $500,000. The day they were closing, I wasn't there. I was out of town. And the man told the Lebanese, why would you pay $500,000? What has he done to earn $500,000? He comes here with suit. Is he a lawyer? Is he a banker? What? And my lawyer friend was wondering, what has this guy done? He has earned his fees. He has spent 6 months structuring this deal. He said, no, you can't pay him. Just pay him $20,000. Just pay him $20,000. In fact, I will pay him from my account. Don't give him a kobo. Now, eventually, found out the man was Freemasonry. You know what Freemasonry is? He opened up and he said, well, all the students, they are not doing well, blah, 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 and all of these, that you just, you can't just get this money like that. And he said things I cannot repeat here. Business is spiritual. Business is spiritual. At a certain level, branding would work. At a certain level, marketing would work. At a certain level, networking will work. But you get to a certain plateau. If it's not spiritual, you're not breaking through that door. Last slide. Oh, my time is up. Well, don't worry. We'll meet some other time. Let me just say this to encourage you. Okay? The economy seems to be going haywire. Inflation, deflation, whatever economic terms, Deji would want to use to qualify what's happening in our society. Don't be afraid. You know what's going to happen? Money is shifting hands. It's moving from some people's hands into another people's. So you need to start positioning yourself. Who is going to be the next billionaire? I'm not motivating you. I'm just stating the obvious. So you need to start, looking at the landscape. That okay, South, they've had their time with Jonathan. The Kaduna Mafia have had their time with Buhari. Now it's the time of the Lagos boys. Who are the guys who are going to be calling the shots? Who do I know? How can I meet this person? What is government policy? What are they doing? How's it going to affect real estate? Who's going to be spending what? What project are they doing? That is what you need to be doing right now. By next year, forget what you're saying right now. This economy is going to open up. And you've got to be positioned, you've got to be prepared, and you've got to take your place. Thank you very much.
TERRApy 3.0. Obafemi George. Can we make some noise?
Terra developers live the good life.